Okay.
So tell me a little bit about your experience working with the Canvas grade book.
Let me remind myself what I'm doing with it. How about that?
Exactly. That sounds like a perfect place to start.
I haven't had any issues, but I haven't tried to do anything super weird with it either. So I think all of these assignments that we've done so far have been things that not all of them. So I've done some forums that got graded. I've done something that they had to give me in class. And so that was just entering their grades basically.
That was something they handed in a piece of paper.
Right. And we did a quiz, but the quiz I didn't do it online. We did a quiz in class. And that's the same thing of just entering. And, it's fine. I haven't had any issues with it. I really, really like that in the forums I can give the students comments and not everybody can see it. For me, that's I'm done. That's the most important feature I care about.
Yeah, so that seems like it allows you to use forums a little bit more.
More as grading, more as... I mean, you can do it in Moodle. It's just a little clunky. And the easier it is for me, the more streamlined it is, the less I have to think about where I am, the better. So I really like that. The Canvas grading seems... I don't know what the word is, but agile. It seems fast. Everything goes pretty quickly. Sometimes with Moodle, you're just kind of sitting and waiting for things to spin, and it doesn't seem to be doing that. I don't know if that's on the back end or what, but anyway.
You got a new computer.
A new computer.
And it's hard to know. It's very difficult to know whether that's our server here or whether whatever it is, it feels like it's been a little bit more responsive in the grade book to you.
Yeah, it's been consistently good. And then I have done one or two Turnitin assignments. Wait, let me think so we did one Turnitin assignment in that class. And that seems, pretty much the same as Moodle, which I guess it would since it's Turnitin.
Yeah, it does have some, the interface of how you look is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think that, Moodle actually has a little bit more information. But you found when you were grading the Turnitin assignments, it was fine.
It's fine. It's great. It's the same. To me, it's the same. It seems the same. It's in Moodle, you get a new window automatically, and then when you go back in... Okay, actually, that's not what I'm trying to say. The one thing I noticed that made me just stop and pause a couple of times was, and I could imagine somebody getting stuck on that, is if you click on the assignment sometimes, even though it's a Turnitin assignment, it doesn't take you in to Turnitin. It just takes you to Quick Grade or Speedy Grades, whatever that's called in Canvas, the Speedy Grader thing.
The Speed Grader.
So, and I like the Turnitin grading functionality because you can put your rubric in there and you can go in and highlight the document and stuff like that. So I always like to be inside Turnitin, and there was just a couple of times where I went into grade and then I was in Speed Grader instead, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't where I want to be, and I just had to back out.
How much do you rely on Turnitin for its plagiarism features?
A lot.
Okay.
A lot. Yeah, if Turnitin were not integrated, then for me, we wouldn't use it. Because we actually, so I'm department chair too, so most of my faculty use it, and we use it, and we catch students cheating on a regular basis. So we really rely on it. Because they do share their papers with each other, or, I took that course, and, it's not very good.
Yeah. Well, and so with the Turnitin, so I just want to, if there's some things in the Speed Grader that has similar functionality, so if people are turning in their, if they're turning in their term papers, say, and you had them just upload the files, that there are different functionalities. Some of those things that you're used to in Turnitin in terms of being able to mark up on the document, and there are some.
It has some of that.
It has some of that. And
does it do so Turnitin will do a first pass on the grammar? Does it do that?
Don't know.
Okay.
In terms of like a grammar correction.
Because I like that too.
Yeah, you can identify things quickly that maybe need to be detangled.
Right, yeah. It's not very, it makes mistakes, but the students, I actually just let the students look at it and say, and I tell them, if there's a ton of purple marks in there and you turn it in like that, I'm not going to be impressed.
For the students.
Yeah.
They upload their
thing. And what I like is, unlike, if as a professor, so I've been working in an online environment for a really long time. And so one thing that we used to do was we would just use track changes in Word, but then the students will just go in and accept all the changes, or, then they don't have to really think about. What I like about Turnitin is that shows it to them, but they actually have to open up their own file and go in and correct it. So I really like that. They can't, there's no accept changes. It's just, it's pointed out to you what's wrong, and then you need to go and change it. So I like that because it's a little bit more of a learning experience for them. Well, a lot more of a learning experience.
So it sounds like, Turnitin is a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah. Anyway, but which has nothing to do with Canvas or Moodle, but
Yeah, and there are some nice being able to, if you wanted to, if you're doing an all online class, being able to give feedback via video and audio.
Right.
That's part of something that you can do.
Can you do that in the
Canvas.
speed? Yeah.
Yeah, if you when you're going through your papers, and if you had you're clicking through your papers, there's one of the buttons when you're writing the comments on the bottom left. It looks like a little thing of a movie. And you can click on that, and then you can just record.
Let's see.
And so.
If I do that, I don't have any. This one doesn't have any content. Does that matter?
Yeah. Is there an assignment that you could give feedback on?
This is Turnitin.
This is a Turnitin one.
Yeah, for me, if I do if they're submitting a file, I almost always give them Turnitin, and it's just
with your discipline, that is a perfect fit for what you're doing. I have
undergrads, Yep.
Helps them see
the rest
the
of
potential
these,
problems in their grammar.
The rest of this is stuff that we do in class, and then they get a grade on it.
Good to know. All right. Let's see. So one of the things after in that section 1, you kind of go through and look at the functionality, what things support you as a teacher, and also looking at functionality of what the different tools are like in Canvas versus Moodle. And then it asks you overall to make a recommendation to the academic senate, and it's phrased like this: which LMS platform do you believe will best serve your colleagues and students in their efforts to fulfill the educational mission of Sonoma State University? And so if you had to make a binary choice, which one would you go with, and then what is some of your reasoning behind why you would make that recommendation?
So do you want me to tell you that right now, in addition to putting it in the survey?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I actually find it a really hard question, and I do take really seriously the idea that this isn't just about what I can do, but this is about what is good for everybody. For me, okay, so I think Canvas actually, if you were starting from scratch, I think Canvas is actually a little bit easier to learn. I think some of the features on it are easier to use. So linking to a file is just easier, in my opinion. And then it has, for me, like I said, on the forums, that seems to be forums. Everybody uses forums, and that ability, when I talk to people, that ability to comment privately on a student's post is very, very attractive, and lots of people miss that in Moodle. They're like, I wish that we had that. I've been hearing people say, wish we had that since we started with Moodle. So I think that's a pretty big feature. Canvas is really boring to look at. You can put photos in various places, but like your main page is really boring. And you know, I've seen that they have a way of making a main page that looks a little bit more attractive or whatever. But you know, just in terms of like just inserting pictures and things and images, it seems like Moodle does that better.
It does seem weird that you can't do that in the modules.
Yeah.
It's like if you could just do a little bit of text and one photograph for each thing, then it would make it...
Right. One thing that makes that module look different from the other modules, even colors would be awesome.
And somebody pointed out that when they're teaching and they're demonstrating materials, that they use those pictures as like, oh, I know I'm on the right week because I see the picture of Dewey or whatever. Exactly.
So that I think is a big, I wish the Canvas would do that, but it's like I can live without that. The other thing in Canvas that I haven't, but somebody told me you could do this in Canvas, but I haven't figured out, and I haven't asked anybody because they just told me this today, but Moodle has that choice feature, right? So I need students to choose a novel. We're going to read 4 different novels and they get to choose one of the 4. I like putting that on Moodle and having them choose on Moodle because it rewards the students who are on the go and they go into Moodle and they do it early and they get their first choice as opposed to passing around a piece of paper in class when then that means that whoever happens to be sitting where I gave you the piece of paper first, you get your first choice and the people who are over there get their last choice. So I like the choice feature, but it's not more important than being able to comment privately on forums. So for me, in the end, Canvas wins. Just in terms of teaching. Then as a department chair who has a program where we put together a portfolio, I'm super, super, super interested in the Canvas portfolio. That looks awesome. That would make a huge difference to our students in the entire program. I haven't used it a lot because I'm not doing anything with portfolios right now, but I did go in and look at it and I thought, oh yeah, this would work. It doesn't do everything we want from a portfolio, but right now we have our students building their portfolios on Weebly. And it's just, they have to be responsible for saving their assignments over the long term. And, they count my hard drive died or whatever. There's a million different reasons why they no longer have their assignments. If we could have them put them in as they go, then when they're seniors, they would already all be inside their portfolio and all they would have to do is organize it and reflect and, the part of that portfolio that matters. Right now we spend way too much time with the students trying to find their stuff. So so I really like that. So
from old versions, Moodle only goes back so far, so you can only access your content so far in the past.
So for me and my immediate colleagues, I would probably go with Canvas at this point. I hesitate a lot because I think across campus, people are really used to using Moodle. I think there's a lot of anxiety about learning a new system, about, just what will I not be able to do? I'm used to doing all of these kinds of things. I don't know how much other people rely on something like choice or something that they rely on that I don't even know about. So it's hard for me to actually think about how to make that decision in a way that really takes into account the entire campus because I just don't know. I don't know what people are doing.
Yeah, and in the difficulty of choosing in systems is that that there are going to be some problems in whichever there are some reasons of why you're going to a different system maybe or why you're considering a different system, and there are obvious anybody who's lived in a particular place in a particular house. Not everybody wants to move. Why move?
And why go find a new dentist?
Yeah. They were perfect. And so that is something that we're going to have to figure out as far as you see in the supporting do you get the sense that you think that Canvas will make it easier for more people? That you said it's a little bit basic, but do you think it would be easier for new faculty to adopt, or not a significant difference? Or your JC students that are coming in, they have all of the community colleges are using Canvas. And
I thought it was relatively easy. I mean, yeah, for new faculty who've never used anything else, whichever one, no problem. I think people I don't know. I'm usually a pretty easy tech learner. I don't, I've never shied away from it or anything. So I just don't know. I don't know where people get hung up, but it seems to me that it's pretty basic and easy. Yeah, I don't know. And and even I was a little worried about switching. Am I going to get, when I'm in Moodle, am I going to be trying to do something the Canvas way? It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, part of that's just because they look so different. You have a lot of cues that, where you are it's a different place. It's not Moodle.
Yeah. That sounds good. Tell me, so you kind of touched on that ease of use, and that's the first section of question 2 was ease of use, describing your experience. So you had a pretty easy time getting up, and you had a couple little roadblocks. What was that like for you?
The only thing I ran into, so there's the Turnitin of just getting lost in the speed grader when I meant to be in Turnitin. Something about announcements. I like the RSS feed for announcements, so I've been using that. I have no idea how much.
Where was that? Show me what you were doing there.
Yeah, so this is a course, social justice, childhood issues. So I've got an RSS from UNICEF, and that just comes in with various news articles. And
so you just to add that, you clicked on the little RSS.
Yeah, I think I clicked on that.
That one there.
No, I didn't click on that.
Nope, you didn't click on that.
I think add external feed. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, and that was easy. That was it took no time at all. And then then this one, notes from the field, which I can't remember who that is, but I added that.
That's good to know. I know that the nursing department does similar, public health.
Right.
Set up in their Moodle, and they weren't sure exactly how they were going to add that.
Oh, okay. No, it was easy. So, yeah.
There it is right there.
It was super easy. And then, what I was worried about was that my messages would get lost, but, look, there's my big picture, and it seems like it's been okay. The students haven't complained. The only thing it doesn't do is I'm not sure. So on Moodle, I know very clearly that the news forum, no one can unsubscribe to it. And if I want people to be able to subscribe, I have to form a new forum. And the announcements, they don't seem to come to me. Like the RSS feed doesn't come to me, but my announcements do. So I guess it works more or less the same way, except that the RSS feed doesn't come into my email, which is good. I don't want it to.
Yeah, otherwise.
But when I first set it up, I was worried about that, and I was trying to figure out how to turn it off. But I think it's just so there's sometimes I have questions like that, and then I just wait to see how it works. But
so the configuration that was pre-configured were messages that humans in your course post to this, or you post to this. Can your students post to this board here, the announcements also?
I don't know. I have no idea, actually. That's a good question. They never have tried. Okay. They have their own. I've set them up with their own form. Okay, so here we go.
Show me around your course just a little bit.
Yeah, so, and then, so this is my big complaint with Moodle is I've got this, I always have a section at the top that's stuff that they're probably going to have to come back to throughout the course. And I don't want to embed that in a module because I move those around and whatever. And there's no differentiation here, It's I'd really just like some pictures or something. So I find that just a little bit.
All the resources look kind of the same.
Yeah, they all look the same. You really have to read the text. And I'm really used to the idea that my students do not, especially when they're young or whatever their reason is, a lot of them just really aren't that good at really paying attention to text, especially on a screen when what they're doing is trying to move around. It's one thing to have a book in front of you or something that you're really paying attention to, but they're really used, on a screen. And I watch them and they're like moving their mouths really fast. They're in a hurry. And, so I just think this isn't going to work. I don't know. They're not complaining. But
you feel like it could be more student-centric.
Yeah.
The presentation of that.
Images.
For the freshmen, for people that don't like to read.
Yeah.
The LMS requires in a society
it's a little bit more
that prefers
visual.
not to read.
Yeah, it's a little more visual cues. And the icons are all green, they're all, I don't know. I never found them particularly helpful in Moodle either, but this is awfully
it's hard to tell if it's a PDF or if it's a Word document or the link is obvious.
So here's a forum. So announcements up here seems to work like the news forum.
Okay.
Except I can put an RSS feed in there. Then I've given them a class commons, so that's where they can post to. I don't think they can post announcements, but I don't know for sure. And then they've got a bunch of, so I've got some pages here, that you can't remember when you're supposed to present. You can go in and, look at your presentation date. And that's just, I like pages a lot, kind of web pages kinds of stuff. So I use those a lot. Anyway, so that's all just information at the top. Assignments that go over the course for quite a bit of time. I tend to do assignments that we break into little pieces. So they always need to be able to come back to the resources. So resources for their presentation or their journal.
So I have one question here. You have a check here for your better thinking presentation date. So do you do stuff where like all the students have to sign up for some day to present?
Yes.
What day are they doing and how are you achieving that here?
Okay, yeah. So that's what I don't like about Canvas. So I did use the quiz feature that you can turn it into a questionnaire. I find that confusing. I would rather just have I'd rather they just said there's quizzes and there's surveys, questionnaires, the way that Moodle does. But I worked it out.
Like the language, just the fact that it's called a quiz is confusing.
Well, and when you're, no, it's not exactly, I can go in there and figure out what they're talking about, but it's extra cognitive load. Why are you making me think about whether it's a quiz or a questionnaire? Those are two completely different things. Just give me two different links.
Sounds good.
And then the other thing is, and then looking at the results of the questionnaires, it seems to me in Moodle, it was somewhat more direct that you knew here's my results. And here I had to download an Excel file. And it was for one of them to get the statistics on the students.
So when you're looking at like each student is going to pick one date,
let's look at one.
How does that look? Like I'm a student, there are certain dates that you can present and which date, and they fill their so are you using a quiz to populate that so that then they can see which dates they've, and if it's filled out, is it like if these date has this number of people at these times, then they're not available to the other people?
Okay, so I didn't know how to do that.
Okay.
Right. So here's choose your novel for week 12. So it's an ungraded survey, and I did all of that, and see, even now I'm stuck. How do I see the results? What do I do?
What happens with the preview? Like if you look into the preview. So this is
what they see.
This is what they see. So I guess maybe if you go into where do you look at your assignments that have been turned in? Maybe looking.
There we go. See, yes, and that's what I figured out before. Right. So see, I already have to figure things out. Which Moodle doesn't make me do this for questionnaires. In Moodle, if I'm in there, I'm good. So let's. It's not an assignment. It's a quiz, right? It's a quiz. It's a quiz.
Okay.
Quizzes are different. Okay, so if we go in, we can look at the results.
I don't think you're looking at the results.
No.
Where do you go to grades? Maybe?
Grades, maybe. Wait, I don't. See, we're lost. I did work it out before.
And if you look at where's this assignment? So this is an ungraded assignment, right?
It's not in here because I didn't grade it. Right. I don't think it's in here. Yeah, they're not in here because they're not graded. It's an ungraded survey. So let's go back here. Let me think. Because I did find them before. I think I did it. See, so here's what I don't like about Canvas. Because normally it wouldn't. Okay, here we go. Survey statistics.
Okay.
Normally it doesn't take me this long to figure something out.
I probably misled you.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm just saying it's unusual. So this is, I think, a problem with Canvas and not with me. Okay, so here's, 25% of them have chosen a game for swallows, and I find this annoying because all of them have answered correctly. That's why I don't like it being a quiz. They've answered whatever they've answered. And then I can go in and I can see.
Who answered it wrong?
Yeah. So I can see, okay, these 4 students want to read a game for swallows. It's their first choice. What I didn't have or I couldn't figure out how to do, and granted, I did not spend a lot of time on this, trying to figure it out, and I didn't ask Noelia, which I could have done. But I just said, I need to move on. I was in a hurry. If I really just wanted to say only 4 people can read a game for swallows, I don't know how to limit that. Right? So right now I have 8. So my groups are all uneven. And that's actually okay with me. But it wouldn't be my first choice. And that's something that the choice module in Moodle lets you do really easily. Like, it's, no-brainer.
So you've got there are some things that are pretty common. So I want to pay attention to those moments that here's a common faculty workflow.
Right.
One of them is there's different slots on different nights. There's 3 nights we're going to do presentations at the end of the semester. Everybody needs to sign up for a time slot.
Right. And so then how do I limit them? Right, because that one would be much more important. And I did have to do that, and I just did it in class because it was like, forget it. I can't figure out how to do it. And
another thing is that, everybody's going to sign up to choose one of these
novels.
One of these,
whatever.
So you choose one, and then one novel, say, and how do you get a maximum number per, and it could be like the time slots, or basically you've got this novel and you've got 4 slots, and then someone can sign it. So it could be the same functionality that solves.
Absolutely, because that's all that Moodle does.
Can you do that with a quiz? Or is there a different method that, because it has to kind of consider other people's answers before it's only a right answer. It's only a correct answer.
So somebody told me today, it was talking about this. So people are talking, there's a lot of buzz about this, but somebody told me I could do it. See, now I've already lost it. I've lost what she told me, but she said you could do it somewhere else. So
she had a different way of doing that.
Yeah.
A different type of assignment, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Oh, that's Noelia.
Yeah. Well, I could ask her too. So, So that's one. That's one.
Migration. Your migration experience. Did you build this from scratch?
I built it from scratch. So I'm probably a little bit unusual in that I chose to do this in a class I've never taught before. So. Glutton for punishment. But it's the only big class I'm teaching right now, and I really wanted to be part of the pilot. So.
And sometimes that gives you an opportunity to kind of look at the way it wants to, as opposed to recreating something else.
Yeah, I actually I often just start over in Moodle as well. I don't mind putting in the extra time for that because I do like to rethink things. So. Yeah.
And so did you find building it, how did the building it compare to building a new class from scratch in Moodle?
In some ways, I think because this is so limited, right, I think it's actually in many ways easier. I don't know, I find it easier. Like, it's less like looking at, You know what I think it is? Because to add something, you have to, right? You've got this limited number of choices. Mm-hmm. And you just add it, and you're done, and that's what you can do. Moodle's a lot more like looking at a blank page where you're like, what am I supposed to put here? You know, I don't know why. But for me, this seems so much more limited that in many ways that made it easier to build it. It's like, okay, well, these are the only things I can do, so which one am I going to choose? And I don't know, maybe in Canvas you can expand out the list of things you can choose, and it gets big enough that after a while that's not true anymore. But yeah, I don't know.
And you found it pretty easy to. Did you use Pages at all? How did you use Pages in?
So like here, this is a page. So I give the students the goals. I want them to know what I think we're doing, and then I use Pages to give them a to-do list. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and then I link to anything that they need to. So I might have readings in here. This one doesn't happen to have readings, but I might have readings, or everything that is on their to-do list, I link to wherever I need, wherever they need to go for that. And I like that. So my modules are actually really clean. I mean, if we go back to my modules, except for that first one, the rest of them are really clean because everything is linked inside the to-do list. Well, except for there's some that are longer. But so that's how I use Pages. Mostly for to-do list would be my number one thing that I'm doing. I don't know.
What is the discussion wheel thing?
I don't know. Let me see. Where do I go back? What are we looking at?
Well, you were in the modules and you were looking at.
That's just a file.
That's a file. Okay.
This is something that we did in class. So they do a lot of seminars, large group discussions that they have to run, and so one person is always observing, and they do this. And so this was something I wanted them to look at and say, okay, how are our discussions going? Is everybody talking? Are people asking questions? They can look at that. And
so you're putting stuff that went back into the modules. You collected this during class, and you added. Somebody took that picture,
right,
and then you added it in. So you're still using those buckets as things to collect things, even after you were
definitely
done with it. And you use these in class when you're teaching. Do you link to the resources here sometimes to show people in it, or is this something that people mostly access at home afterwards?
No, I do, or sometimes this class I haven't had a lot of PowerPoints, but sometimes I'll put the PowerPoint in here. I know there's one in here somewhere, but like here's a couple of PowerPoints, so then I can access them. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll put in a PowerPoint. So when I use PowerPoints, usually there's one for me and there's one for them. So that's not true on this one, but the one for them will be, I'll publish it, but I won't publish mine, so I can go get mine. It's just a place that it's handy in case. I tend to take my own computer, so it doesn't matter so much, but if I get stuck using the classroom computer, then it's easier to just have everything in there.
And is there a difference between your version and their version?
Oh, yeah. My PowerPoints have all the information in them. For them, let's see if I did it with this one. For them, the PowerPoints, there's usually, see where I've taken out. So they have to pay attention and catch those keywords, right?
There might be parts that they have to interact with or add things into. Right,
they have to. And I also don't give them the slides. I just give them the notes version. So, anyway.
Sounds good. So it looks like you're able to build your course, and you let's see.
I just thought of this because I haven't noticed. So my students complained about. Okay, so when they were choosing the novel, one of them complained to me. So he goes in and he's in there, right? Yeah. And he says, okay, it's not showing it to me this way, but when he was in this, let's see if we just go here. Okay. He's in there, and he's answering the question, but instead of clicking submit, he clicked next. And he's complained throughout the the course that he keeps clicking next instead of the thing that he needs to click, because to him next means submit, or it means exit, or it means whatever. And so then he just ends up going to the next thing in the module, and he just finds it really frustrating.
And then he loses his, does he lose his?
So when he did the quiz, he did lose what he had done, and then he couldn't figure out how to get back in. So he seemed like he really was having trouble using Canvas. No one else has said that, but he brought it up, so I just thought I'd mention it.
That's good. There's the user interface stuff is sometimes a little hard to know.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to figure out the peculiarities of one system, but that's
yeah. I mean, and I haven't asked him recently.
Sometimes
at
with
this
those
point,
pages and with the next, I did notice that sometimes, like, why does is that next page go next? And it seemed like with your course, it went to the next page that was in that module. Like it looked like that module had a couple pages in it. It went to the next one, but
it does. But see, so this is March 6th and 8th, and then actually, so I've tried this. What happens is if I hit next now, there's no more in that module. That module's done. It'll just take you right into the next module.
The next
which,
module,
you know, is kind of defeats the organizational value of the modules. So that part's not that good either. I think it should just pop you back out. Say there's nothing else.
Or not have the next button.
Yeah.
If you're
if I could turn that off, I would turn it off.
And so, what's your overall impression of Canvas if you had to characterize it?
I like it. I do. I like it. I think it's organized. It's organized. Once you know how to use it, it's easy to use, I think, with some places where I'm still getting lost. But I think over time, you'd get really used to it. I mean, you know, right now I'm going between two systems, and I don't have that much experience with it. So I think all of that would iron itself out. Like I said, for me, the forums, being able to comment privately on forums, is that's just a huge feature. So I like it.
Yeah, sounds like your overall impression is that it's sort of basic but good.
It works.
And it kind of fulfills most of your needs as a professor for what you rely on. And do you teach a lot of online courses too, or not?
No, but we do. Most of our this one doesn't, but most of our classes have like maybe a 25% hybrid part of it. You know, most of my faculty are using some part of their courses online. And so most of them are beyond, this is where you can get the syllabus or they're beyond that.
Yeah, and in the courses that I've taken in School of Ed, that by and large, there are a lot of people that work, and so they try to have some flexibility. That maybe like 30% of the class is like, this next week we're going to meet on Zoom or asynchronously. Yeah. So that seems in the School of Ed to be a pretty typical usage of the LMS.
Yeah, we're a little bit different again because we're teaching undergrads and they're on campus. So that isn't so much a concern for us. We do that in the graduate program. But with the undergrads, it's more like a 4-hour module doesn't seem to work well. You know, people get pretty antsy by the 3rd hour, and so let's just put 1 hour online. Why have everybody in the classroom?
Some part of the class.
Yeah.
Of what this week's class is. Some of it you do online. Some of it you do in the class, and maybe it works a little bit better for.
Yeah, and actually what the faculty like is if they do that, what they can do online is go back to things that were talked about in class, and then so they're making the students go back and review something, or now they can apply it. You know, we send them out into the world, go to a playground and watch some kids and see what you did, you know, this theory that we just talked about. Do you see it? Do you see any evidence that this theory is true if you're just watching some children on a playground or, you know, whatever. So it's really useful that way. So.
Sounds good. The particular strengths, any particular strengths that you wanted to highlight? it sounds like the e-portfolios.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean things that I've said: the e-portfolio, the ability to comment privately on the forum. I feel like a broken record.
Yeah, I don't mean to break you as a record.
I do think. I think. Once you get used to that, it's kind of boring. It is very organized. I mean, you know, you've got your little modules, and it seems to me that it's pretty straightforward. It's actually hard to clunk it up. Like in Moodle, you can put a lot of files in there on your main module page. You can put, you know, and so all of a sudden it's really long, and you've got millions of things on there. And Canvas doesn't really. You can, but you'd kind of. It kind of. To me, Canvas encourages you to streamline a little bit.
So do you think that, like, so the two sides of that coin are, there's like the customizability. Moodle has a little bit more options for a professor to customize things and make it however they feel like it is good. Do you think like that's the standardization across campus with something slightly like simpler versus faculty ability to have sort of the freedom to orient their course the way however they would like to? Do you have any strong feelings about how that balances for the overall student experience?
Right. So I would say, so from the faculty side, I think if we had never had Moodle, people would be perfectly fine with this. But it is going to be hard. People are really used to customizing their space. And I think, and I will miss it, but for me, it would be worth it to be able to privately comment on the forums. For the students, I sometimes get comments on my teaching evaluations where they say, Chiara's Moodle is so much more organized than other people's Moodle, or, you know, I really like the way she used Moodle, or something like that. And that's often my gut feeling about it is it's often about some of the aesthetics, and because I actually minimize a lot. I mean, even as much as I like images and I'm complaining about it, I do minimize my use of them. And I try to keep my pages really uncluttered, and this is very uncluttered. And so I think to the extent that different sites would start to look the same, I think students actually might like that. I don't know. I mean,
it's hard to know, yeah.
You know, but that comment, because it always kind of surprises me, because I'm like, well, I'm not really doing anything very exciting or anything. So I just think they like that it's organized. And maybe, and I don't know, because I don't look at a lot of other people's pages, but maybe other people's pages aren't quite that organized or whatever. So I think standardization could work really well for students. I think maybe the negative for students then, though, could be just like all their courses look the same. And I don't know, for them, maybe that's just kind of uninspiring.
As a university, like, I see it like, is it like the architecture? Like, is your LMS part of like your buildings?
Right.
Or is it like a classroom and every classroom starts to feel a little bit the same? Like, is a classroom a blank space? Are you designing the quad? Are you designing, you know, the student center?
Right.
Or are you designing a classroom and I don't know.
I don't know. Is there any research on that?
That's a good
Or
question.
thinking about that? I don't know.
And how much does that, you know, if you spend, and so with some disciplines that spend more time online, you know, is that a bigger consideration of building your educational environment, or is really the communication between people the core of what an environment is like? I mean, it definitely, as an architecture student, you know, I can say that I do appreciate lots of parts of the student center that somehow does dignify the institution. You know, and does an LMS have a similar role? And
you're probably right. It probably depends on how much it's being used, and
that's the. But
I will. One other thing that I can say for faculty is I did ask an adjunct faculty member to teach for me in the fall, who who teaches already at Santa Rosa JC. And she, in the end, turned me down. And her reason was she really was interested in teaching and she really wanted to teach the specific class I'd given her. But her reason was she didn't want to learn Moodle. And she said, if you were using Canvas, I already know how to use it. I'm not going to learn another one. And so, I don't know to what extent that's a big factor across campus, but I thought it was interesting. It's like, okay. Well, and I was sorry that she didn't teach for us, but, so that's interesting.
People mentioned that they can have their own Canvas accounts and then they can transport their materials fairly easily, which you can do with different Moodle things too, but I don't know how much the JC versus the SSU people take their material back and forth between those two. I don't know. Mostly not much in the...
She wasn't, I don't think she so much wanted her material to transfer. She just didn't want to learn how to use Moodle. Yeah.
Any workflows that you have relied on in Moodle that you haven't been able to recreate?
No, I'm more inclined to organize my files on Canvas. I didn't used to do that on Moodle. I would just drag them in there.
So you found that the file structure was a helpful part. You kind of liked that, the way your files, you can sort of organize your files.
Well, because if you... so here, like if I'm going to now link to this file, I have to come over here and look at my files. And so keeping this organized is now a big deal. Right? In Moodle, I would just drag the file onto the page and then I would link to, so I drag it down into my module, right? I drag the file onto my module and then I would link to that. And that actually was a lot of steps, where this way, I actually really like this. I type in whatever I'm going to type in. I just come over here to files and I find it and I link to it. And that's not as many steps. I don't have to go between screens. That's great. I really, actually, that's a good thing. So this workflow is actually better than in Moodle for sure, concerning files. But I do have to organize my files. But that's okay. That's fine. It's worth it. It's totally worth it. So that's good. I don't think so. I don't think there was anything special I was doing in Moodle that I'm missing here.
Any accessibility? Did you notice anything that, any features or issues that might affect individuals with disabilities or accessing coursework in Canvas?
No, the only thing I would say is that if you were using images for anybody, for any reason images were important, you would lose that. But I've never done that. And I've never had to, I've never really had to go much beyond universal design in my thinking about students' accessibility, so I'm not the best person to ask. I mean, I've never really had students with, a lot of challenges.
Do things like students who have extended time, say they're allowed to turn in things later, is there tools in either one that you've seen that say, okay, this student is always allowed 3 more days to turn in an assignment?
I don't know. I haven't done it. Sorry.
That's okay. I know you've been working in Moodle for a long time. You've had lots of students.
No, I haven't had to do that. I have, in Moodle, I have had to give extra time on quizzes. I think that's a very common thing. But in this particular class, we haven't done any online quizzes, so I haven't had to do it.
Sounds good. So we're almost done.
No problem.
Possible transition if Sonoma State decides to adopt Canvas. What types of support, training, or information do you think would best help your colleagues make a smooth transition to working in Canvas? So some of the things we are used to thinking about here is there is like the 24/7 phone and email support. There could be live training webinars. We could host face-to-face workshops or provide Moodle migration assistance, but we have our ways of thinking about things, so we were looking to see if you guys had thoughts about what...
Well, all those things are good, for sure. And when I hire new faculty, because we've had to hire a lot of adjuncts, I always am telling them, go do the workshops at the faculty center. So I appreciate that those are there for sure. When we started with Moodle, so when Moodle started, there was a summer course for a certain number of faculty took a summer course and they learned how to use Moodle. And I was part of that group. And I don't remember how many it was, but, whatever. And it was basically an online course, and we did it in Moodle, and so we were the students. But we also had our sandbox, and we were building a course. And that was very cool for me personally. That was a cool, interesting way to learn it, and especially because it was so hands-on. But...
did you meet too? Or was
I think we might have met once just to say, here's what we're doing. It was mostly online. And that was very cool. And then there was videos and, you watched videos or whatever you did. That was very nice and I liked that a lot. But one of the things that came out of that was then in the School of Education, we said, okay, how can we take what, so there was a faculty member at the time named Jessica, and I think Kelly Estrada Parker, and I think Kelly Estrada was maybe in that first group too. So what can we take? How can we take what Chiara and Kelly and Jessica have been learning, and roll that out to the rest of the faculty? And so the School of Education did their own set of workshops, and what we did was we tell them, okay. Bring your syllabus and we're gonna talk about Moodle a little bit, and then we're gonna have you working. And so I think we used 2010 up here in Schultz, and we came in and we did very short. Here's something about Moodle that you would like to know. Now you go and try and do it. And so it was a lot of like, we'll show you something, but then you do it. And there was something about. So you could do that here in the faculty center, but there actually was something really nice about it being School of Ed. As faculty members we're used to working with, and we were sort of talking about things in the courses. Like there's the discussion about Moodle, but then there's also always another discussion about the courses. And so it's, and we all know these courses and we're all in the same program, and like, I had no idea you were doing that. And so that brought a lot of energy to it that,
it was good to help make some of those connections about, when you're looking at how you're going to post these courses virtually, it allowed you kind of to look critically and together at what everybody was doing.
Right, and in a program way that went a little bit beyond the courses. And you can get really great, I've done a lot of things on campus where I've gotten wonderful ideas from faculty and other schools and other departments, and I love that. But for that first look... I think there just was something very coherent and very, just fun. It was just fun.
Did Jessica lead that, or was there like
Jessica and Kelly and I did, the three of us. Yeah, we just did it on our own. We didn't have. I don't remember having any IT help with that.
Yeah, and that's something that like how you build that type of connection as an ongoing thing. I felt like that in the School of Ed, that there could be more either building of shared resources or having a sense of that there's a big variety of some people where I use it as a place to put my syllabus. And then, of course, people like Jessica had much more, I had her in 2014.
Okay,
And so... it was kind of like, why every class should be like this.
Right.
Why not? Can you build a forum that somebody can drag in so they don't have to think about how you set it up? Or, I was thinking about that banks of different resources that people could bring in that are specific to your discipline. Like you have something, that thing of like everybody's going to choose an article or choose a book or something like that. Can you pre-bake one of those little cookies and bring it into... Yeah, and or in our department, faculty share, there's one big course that a lot of people teach, and they share the test banks, right? They all create questions, and so then they have these mega test banks, and they really like that. Yeah, It seemed like a way, like when you have a course like 570 or something, where people are looking at these resources and each professor has their different slice of interest. It'd be nice to accumulate those things in an organized way that that other faculty could say, oh, here's an amazing resource about people doing this type of work in social justice in secondary schools or something.
Yeah. So anyway, so those workshops were really fun. And then actually reminded me that we also then did, we were mentoring. So I think we were assigned specific faculty members that we would mentor. So we make ourselves available to them. We had like office hours, Moodle office hours, and people could just drop in. And then at some point we did some lunches too. So you could come eat pizza and talk to Jessica about your Moodle course or, something like that. And all of that I think really was helpful to the school. And I think, because, people were really anxious. We'd been using WebCT. They were very anxious about moving to Moodle, the same kind of anxiety that I'm sensing right now. And I think it really helped with a lot of that. And part of it was just making it a little more fun. I remember us talking about that. Like, how can we make this like it's play instead of work? We paid a lot of attention to that.
Yeah, how can you make it a positive, fun experience as opposed to... like
another thing
you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, and that sounds like you had the right people to generate some of that enthusiasm. And do you think that, like, in this transition, would you be willing to be a part of some of those efforts?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun. That was great.
Yeah, so if we think about, and I know that we're thinking about that, depending on which direction we go, we kind of have to have a game plan up and running. If we do decide to go this way, it's like, how are we going to try to take the expertise, familiarity of what's here, and take this experience and learn from it to go forward? Any other comments that you would like to?
Let me think. What did I miss? What is in my class? I don't think so. No.
You feel like the tools here are helpful? So some of the things that I've seen people talk about is like how they shine a light on what they want students to pay attention to at this time.
Yeah, how do they do that? So that is something that I haven't... Yeah, so Moodle, you used to be able to turn a module a different color, or I can't remember. There was some way to highlight it.
You can like do pretty granular, like hiding things. Some people do a lot of hiding things. On Canvas, for instance, you can change the homepage to any homepage. So when you're in module 2 and you've got that main page that you've got, you could have that show up when people come in. I mean, there are different ways to do it. I was just wondering.
It seems more straightforward in Moodle to do it the way, I'm not a big proponent of hiding things, so I'm always much more about, is there just some way to highlight what I do want you to look at? Because I like students to be able to go in and like, I never got that PowerPoint, I need to go back and find it.
Yeah, I like to see everything and know where everything is.
Yeah.
But I have noticed that, so I've tried to figure out the best way to frame that in terms of like, I think there is a need of teachers, whether it's, and I've looked at it like, this is your kind of like your zone of focus.
Right.
What you want students, how you want to encourage students to focus.
Right. So the way I do that actually here is I just move the week. So this is always at the top, but then I move whatever week we're on, I move it up. So actually I need to move this. But that means that I have to go in and I have to remember to move it and here, as long as I'm here. So I just move it up. And then, it gets a little weird because it goes backwards and they're out of order. When I first put it up there, they're out of order because I don't move it until the week is over. And, it's kind of dumb. And if there was I just wish I could highlight this particular week. If I could turn this red right now.
Block around it to say, this is the one we're on, pay attention.
Right, more. And you used to be able to do that in Moodle. I actually think that was a particular, I forget what that's called, skin. It's not a skin, but I think it was...
It was like one of the themes.
Right, one of the themes, right. And you could highlight that week, and that was kind of nice. But you know, I can live without it. It's just it was cool. But also, I mean, if we stayed with Canvas, I would invest the time to figure out how to do the homepage and, you know, do what you were talking about.
I mean, there are probably
I saw that you
ways.
can do it.
Like, I see that, like, so that's like one need that I see that people achieve in different ways. And the LMS makes a difference in how you try to achieve that pedagogical goal. And another thing that I see is different things in the management zone of like whether you accept people resubmitting stuff and then automatically getting less points, or another issue is like how things get weighted within a category. Like you can have quizzes and then different categories in the grade book that get weighted, but in Moodle it was easier, I guess, to weight things in those categories. And do you do any of that type of stuff?
No, see, you're right. In the School of Ed, people probably do. I personally, I don't do a lot of that stuff, so I can't speak to it. But you know, I like everything to be so straightforward that a student's not going to ask me to explain, you know, how I weighted things, or I just add up the points. That's how I tend to do things. But people do that and they talk about it. So I know that if that's harder to do in Canvas, that would be an issue.
That doesn't bother you. It's not something that you have to. It's not really that germane to how you work, and so it hasn't been a big issue for you. No,
and then, you know, the thing about like late submissions and stuff, I mean, that's just another place where I tend to streamline that. You know, I'll set my assignments to close a week after the assignment is due so that I can negotiate with students if I have to. And, you know, that's sort of just philosophical. I know there's going to be students asking me to negotiate, and I know that there's a good chance that I'm going to do it. And I don't want to have to go back in and mess with my settings. So I don't use that really either. You leave like
an extra week, and then that's like your negotiation period if the person hasn't come back and battled you in that period of time.
Yeah, and actually Canvas seems like it's allowing me to do that. So I do set a due date because I want the calendar to be accurate. So due date's there, but then I'll tell it, go ahead and accept late submissions. And maybe this is just a Turnitin thing, but in Turnitin you can say, do not accept submissions after this time. So even though the due date is one thing, the assignment itself is closed later. But I think maybe that's Turnitin.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and giving me your sense. So do go in. There will be a link. I can send a reminder. I should probably send a reminder to faculty just so that they see it again.
Do you want me to close this down?
Yeah, you can close that one down. Let's see. I'm going to stop my recording.
Okay, I'm closing Zoom.
And I'll stop it over here.